Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk to you about something that can absolutely change your life. I'm talking about trust in God. It's a force, an energy that transcends everything. When you trust in God, no matter what condition or circumstance you face, you align yourself with the ultimate power in this universe. You stop fighting against what's happening and start embracing the belief that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. You see, when you trust in God, you step into a space of peace, power, and possibility. The challenges, the struggles, they're not obstacles, they're stepping stones to your growth. You don't need to have all the answers. All you need is faith, because faith in God moves mountains. Let go, trust, and watch how your life transforms in ways you can't even imagine. Trust in God brings peace in chaos. This simple yet profound statement has the power to transform how we experience and react to the challenges of life. When life is full of turmoil, when everything feels uncertain, and when the world seems to be spinning out of control, it's easy to become overwhelmed. The noise of the world, the pressures of daily living, and the weight of personal struggles can all create a sense of chaos that's difficult to manage. But in the midst of that chaos, trusting in God offers something extraordinary: peace. When we talk about peace, we are not referring to a temporary feeling of calm that comes from external circumstances. The peace that trust in God offers is deeper, more lasting, and more resilient than any fleeting sense of relief we may find from the outside world. This peace is rooted in a belief that despite the chaos surrounding us, there is a higher power at work that has a plan for us. It is the realization that no matter how uncertain things may seem, God is still in control. When we truly trust in God, we are able to let go of the need to control everything ourselves and instead surrender to His will. This surrender brings us the peace that comes from knowing that we are not alone and that we don't have to carry the burden of the world on our shoulders. One of the most powerful aspects of trusting in God is that it allows us to shift our focus from the problems in front of us to the source of our strength. In the midst of chaos, it's easy to become consumed by fear, worry, and anxiety. Our minds race with worst-case scenarios and our hearts become heavy with doubt. But when we place our trust in God, we are reminded that we are not defined by our circumstances. Instead, our identity is anchored in something much deeper: our relationship with God. This understanding allows us to see beyond the chaos of the moment and focus on the eternal peace that comes from knowing we are loved, protected, and guided by a higher power. Trusting in God does not mean that life will suddenly become free of challenges or struggles. It doesn't mean that all our problems will disappear. In fact, trusting in God often means facing the chaos head-on, but doing so with a sense of peace that transcends the situation. Life's challenges can still be difficult and painful, but when we trust in God, we are able to endure them with a sense of peace in our hearts, knowing that He is with us every step of the way. There is a profound sense of security that comes with trusting in God. In a world where things can feel unpredictable and unstable, it's comforting to know that there is a constant that we can rely on. God's love and His promises never change. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. When we trust in God, we are anchored in this unshakable foundation, and this security allows us to face the chaos around us with courage and confidence. We don't have to fear the unknown because we know that no matter what happens, God is in control and His plans for us are good. This peace also comes from knowing that God sees the bigger picture. Our perspective is limited by our own experiences, and sometimes it's difficult to see how everything will work out. But God sees everything. He knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. Trusting in God means acknowledging that His wisdom far surpasses our own understanding. Even when things don't make sense, we can trust that there is a purpose behind what is happening. This trust gives us the peace of mind to rest in the knowledge that we don't need to have all the answers. We don't need to figure everything out on our own. God has a plan for us, and He is working all things together for our good. In moments of chaos, trusting God can also serve as a powerful reminder to stay grounded in our faith. It's easy to become overwhelmed by the noise of the world, but when we trust in God, we are reminded to return to the foundation of our faith. Prayer, meditation, and scripture reading can all help us reconnect with God's presence and find the peace that comes from being in communion with Him. These spiritual practices act as anchors in the midst of a storm, helping us to regain focus and perspective. They remind us that no matter how chaotic life may seem, God's presence is always with us and His peace is always available to us. Trusting in God in the midst of chaos also means accepting that there will be things we cannot control. It's natural to want to fix problems or change our circumstances, but trusting in God means acknowledging that there are some things beyond our ability to influence. When we let go of the need to control every outcome, we open ourselves to the peace that comes from surrendering to God's will. This surrender does not mean passivity or resignation. It means choosing to trust that God's plan is better than our own and that He will provide for us, even when we don't understand how or why. It's in this surrender that true peace is found. The peace that comes from trusting in God also enables us to show compassion and grace to others. When we experience God's peace in our own lives, it overflows into the way we treat others. We are less likely to react impulsively out of fear or frustration and more likely to respond with kindness, patience, and understanding. Trusting in God allows us to see others through the lens of love and empathy rather than judgment or condemnation. This peace is not just for us, it is something that can be shared with the world around us, creating ripples of calm in the midst of a chaotic world. In the end, trusting in God brings peace in chaos because it allows us to transcend the limitations of our human understanding and tap into a deeper, more lasting peace. It gives us the strength to face life's challenges with grace, courage, and confidence, knowing that we are not alone. The peace that comes from trusting in God is not dependent on our circumstances. It is a peace that surpasses all understanding, guarding our hearts and minds in every season of life. It is a peace that is available to us no matter what chaos may surround us, and it is the greatest gift we can receive in times of uncertainty. Faith helps you see opportunities in adversity. This concept may seem paradoxical at first. After all, adversity is typically seen as something negative, something that brings pain, loss, or hardship into our lives. It's easy to get caught up in the weight of our struggles, focusing solely on the difficulty at hand. But when we view adversity through the lens of faith, something extraordinary happens. We begin to see beyond the immediate pain and turmoil and instead recognize the potential for growth, learning, and even opportunity within the very challenges we face. Faith in its truest sense is not about being blind to the hardships of life. It's not about denying the existence of pain or pretending that everything is fine when it's not. Faith is about trust. It's about believing that even in the most difficult moments, there is a purpose and a plan that transcends our understanding. It is about trusting that there is something greater at work in our lives, something that can transform our struggles into opportunities for growth. And when we have that kind of faith, we begin to see adversity in a completely different light. One of the most profound ways that faith helps us see opportunities in adversity is by shifting our perspective. We focus all our energy on the negative aspects, and this tunnel vision can prevent us from seeing the bigger picture. But faith allows us to zoom out and take a broader view of our circumstances. It helps us understand that while the challenge may be difficult in the moment, it is part of a much larger journey. We are not defined by our problems, we are defined by how we choose to respond to them. In times of adversity, faith encourages us to look for the lessons hidden within the struggle. Every challenge, no matter how painful or overwhelming it may seem, carries the potential for personal growth. Faith helps us recognize that adversity is not just something to endure, but something to learn from. It pushes us to ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate because of this? When we embrace this mindset, we begin to see that even in the toughest situations, there are opportunities for self-improvement and transformation. Moreover, faith helps us trust that every difficulty we face is part of a greater plan. We may not understand why certain things happen, and we may never get the answers we're seeking, but faith gives us the assurance that there is purpose in our pain. Sometimes the greatest opportunities arise from the most challenging circumstances. In fact, many of the greatest successes in life have been born out of adversity. History is full of stories of individuals who faced incredible obstacles and emerged stronger on the other side. Whether it's overcoming personal loss, battling illness, or enduring financial hardship, those who have faith are often the ones who find the courage to press on and ultimately discover new opportunities in the process. Faith also gives us the strength to persevere. When adversity strikes, it can be easy to feel like giving up is the only option. The weight of the situation can feel unbearable, and we may question our ability to continue moving forward. But faith provides us with the inner strength to keep going, even when the path ahead seems unclear. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles and that we have access to a source of strength greater than our own. When we trust that we have the power to overcome, we are more likely to keep pushing forward, even when the odds seem stacked against us. And in doing so, we often find that the very act of perseverance opens the door to new opportunities that we never would have encountered had we given up. Faith also fosters resilience. Life's difficulties are inevitable, but how we respond to them determines our future. Adversity can either break us or build us, and faith is the key to building resilience. When we face setbacks, faith teaches us that they are not the end of the story. They are simply a chapter in a much larger narrative. Every setback becomes a setup for a comeback. Faith reminds us that the hard times won't last forever and that brighter days are ahead. This belief in a better future encourages us to keep moving forward, even when it feels like we're stuck in the midst of a storm. And as we continue to persevere with faith, we begin to see the opportunities that arise from our resilience, new strengths, new skills, and new perspectives that make us better equipped to handle whatever comes next. Additionally, faith helps us develop a mindset of abundance, even in the face of scarcity. When we are in the midst of adversity, it's easy to feel like there is nothing left, that we have been stripped of all our resources and options. But faith opens our eyes to the abundance that is still available to us, even in the most difficult times. It encourages us to look for the hidden opportunities that may be just around the corner, the resources that are still within our reach, and the ways in which we can tap into new strengths or sources of support. This mindset of abundance helps us move away from feelings of lack and scarcity and toward a place of possibility and opportunity. Faith also encourages us to believe in the possibility of redemption. Many people face challenges that seem insurmountable, whether it's the aftermath of a failure, the consequences of a poor decision, or the scars of a traumatic experience. But faith assures us that redemption is always possible. No matter how far we've fallen or how bleak the situation may seem, there is always the opportunity for renewal. Faith helps us see that our past does not define our future and that every mistake or failure carries the potential for growth, healing, and transformation. It opens our eyes to the fact that even in our most broken moments, there is still a chance to rebuild, to learn, and to rise stronger than before. Faith also helps us connect with others who may be going through similar challenges. Adversity often has the power to isolate us, making us feel like we are alone in our struggles. But faith reminds us that we are all part of a larger community and that we can find strength in sharing our experiences with others. When we open ourselves up to others in faith, we not only receive support, but we also discover new opportunities for collaboration, connection, and mutual growth. The shared experience of overcoming adversity can create bonds that strengthen our relationships and open up new doors for personal and professional growth. Lastly, faith allows us to embrace uncertainty with confidence. Life is unpredictable and we can't always foresee what challenges will come our way. But faith teaches us that uncertainty does not have to be feared. Instead, it can be embraced as an opportunity for growth, learning, and discovery. When we trust in a higher power, we can face the unknown with courage, knowing that no matter what happens, we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. This confidence in the face of uncertainty allows us to see opportunities where others might see only risks, and it gives us the strength to move forward even when the outcome is unclear. Let go of control and trust in divine timing. This idea may feel unsettling for many of us, especially in a world that encourages constant action, instant gratification, and the belief that if we don't actively control every detail of our lives, things will fall apart. The truth is, we often find ourselves trapped in a cycle of trying to manage every aspect of our existence, from our careers to our relationships, our health to our financial well-being. We believe that the more we try to control, the better the outcome will be. However, this mindset can lead to anxiety, stress, and frustration, as life is a way of throwing unexpected curveballs, often outside our immediate control. When we decide to let go of control and trust in divine timing, we are essentially surrendering our need to micromanage everything and choosing to believe that the universe or a higher power has a plan for us. This doesn't mean we should stop working hard or giving our best efforts, but rather that we allow space for trust and faith in the process, even when things don't unfold as quickly or in the way we expect. Divine timing is about understanding that things happen when they are meant to and not a moment sooner or later. It's about embracing the idea that there is a higher order to everything and that the events in our lives unfold according to a rhythm that is much bigger than our individual desires or timelines. One of the most difficult aspects of this journey is letting go of the illusion of control. We live in a society where everything seems to be within our grasp through technology. We can communicate instantly, track our progress, and even change our circumstances at the touch of a button. But this sense of control can be misleading because it can make us believe that we are the ultimate architects of our fate. We come to believe that if we just try harder, plan more, or push further, we can make everything work out the way we want. While ambition and hard work are important, they can't always guarantee the outcomes we expect. In fact, sometimes our greatest efforts to control can actually create more stress, confusion, and dissatisfaction. Letting go of control means accepting that not everything is within our power to shape. There will be moments when things don't go according to our plans, when life presents challenges that we weren't prepared for. During these times, trusting in divine timing allows us to take a step back and understand that there is purpose in the pause, in the delay, or in the unexpected detour. Often, the delays in our lives are preparing us for something greater than what we had originally imagined. Perhaps we need more time to grow, to develop a skill, or to learn a lesson that will make us better equipped for what's to come. Divine timing teaches us that there is wisdom in waiting. Sometimes things need to unfold in their own time, even when it doesn't make sense to us in the moment. This trust in divine timing doesn't imply passivity. It doesn't mean we stop making decisions or taking action altogether. Instead, it's about balancing effort with patience, action with trust. It's about understanding that while we can make plans, take steps, and move forward with intention, the outcome is not always ours to dictate. There is a rhythm to life that we can either resist, causing frustration and stress, or we can learn to dance with, creating a sense of peace and flow. Divine timing teaches us that there is a natural order to events. And when we are patient and trust in that order, things often work out in ways we couldn't have predicted. Another key aspect of letting go of control is learning to trust that everything is happening for our highest good. It can be incredibly difficult to accept that some of the most challenging or painful experiences in our lives may be part of a greater plan that we can't yet see. During these times, it's natural to question why things are happening or to feel as though the universe is working against us. However, divine timing reminds us that even in the midst of difficulty, there is an opportunity for growth, transformation, and ultimately for something better to come our way. The timing of life's events may not match up with our personal timeline, but it is always working in our favor, even when it doesn't seem that way. For example, when we face a setback, whether it's a job loss, a broken relationship, or a personal failure, it's easy to feel as though we are off course, as though life is not unfolding the way we wanted. But what if this setback is actually creating space for something better? What if the timing of this event is opening the door to a new opportunity that wouldn't have been possible otherwise? Trusting in divine timing means recognizing that the path to our dreams might not always be a straight line. It may involve detours, delays, and unexpected turns. However, these moments are not signs of failure, but rather moments of growth, redirection, and preparation for what's ahead. Letting go of control also means embracing uncertainty. In a world that values certainty and clear outcomes, it can be terrifying to not know what's going to happen next. But divine timing teaches us that uncertainty is not something to fear, it is simply part of the journey. The more we try to force things to happen on our own timetable, the more we resist the flow of life. Trusting in divine timing asks us to embrace the unknown, to trust that even when we don't have all the answers, we are exactly where we need to be. This trust allows us to live with less anxiety and more peace, knowing that we are being guided by a force greater than ourselves. Additionally, letting go of control and trusting in divine timing allows us to cultivate greater patience in our lives. Patience is often seen as a virtue, but it can be one of the most challenging qualities to develop, especially in a world that constantly pushes us to act faster, achieve more, and keep moving forward. Yet, when we trust in divine timing, we begin to understand that patience is not about waiting idly, it's about cultivating faith and confidence in the process. Patience comes from knowing that there is a purpose behind every delay and that everything is happening at just the right time. When we surrender to this truth, we stop rushing through life and start enjoying the journey, knowing that we don't have to force things to happen, we can allow life to unfold naturally. Another important lesson in letting go of control is understanding that our timing is not always the best timing. We may have goals and dreams that we want to see fulfilled, and we may work tirelessly toward those ambitions. However, divine timing teaches us that sometimes we are not ready for the things we desire. Perhaps we need more experience, wisdom, or personal growth before we can fully appreciate or handle the opportunities that lie ahead. Trusting in divine timing means recognizing that we are being prepared for what's to come, and that the right opportunities will present themselves when the time is right. When we let go of control, we open ourselves up to the possibility of something greater than what we could have planned ourselves. The universe, or God, has a much broader perspective of our lives and is orchestrating events in ways that are beyond our comprehension. By trusting in divine timing, we allow ourselves to be led toward opportunities, people, and experiences that we could not have predicted, but that are precisely what we need for our growth and evolution. God's plan is greater than any obstacle you face. It's easy to look at the difficulties in our lives and feel overwhelmed. At times, it seems as though the problems we encounter are insurmountable, like walls that block our progress or storms that prevent us from moving forward. Whether it's a personal challenge, a setback in our career, or a deep emotional struggle, it can feel like we are stuck in a situation with no way out. In those moments, the natural response might be to give up or feel hopeless. But there is a deeper truth that we must hold on to. God's plan is greater than any obstacle we face. When we face obstacles, it's tempting to focus solely on the problem itself. We often get caught in the magnitude of the issue, seeing only the challenge before us and forgetting the bigger picture. It's like being so close to a painting that you can't see the full image. You're too focused on the brushstrokes and the details to appreciate the larger, more beautiful masterpiece. Life's obstacles are similar. They can appear insurmountable when we are in the midst of them. But when we step back and trust that God's plan is unfolding, we begin to see that these obstacles are not the end, but rather part of a greater journey. One of the most powerful aspects of God's plan is that it is bigger than anything we can conceive on our own. We often try to control every detail of our lives, planning our futures, making decisions, and hoping for specific outcomes. But God sees the bigger picture. He knows what we need before we even ask for it. And His plan for us is far more intricate, beautiful, and expansive than anything we could have imagined. We may not understand why things are happening the way they are, or why we are facing certain challenges, but we can trust that God's plan is ultimately for our good. In the midst of our trials, it's easy to lose sight of this, but if we choose to trust that God is in control, we can find peace in knowing that the obstacles we face are part of a plan that will lead us to something greater. When we encounter obstacles, our natural instinct might be to resist, fight, or try to bypass the challenge altogether. We want to avoid discomfort, pain, and uncertainty. But God's plan often involves growth, and growth can only happen when we are stretched and challenged. The obstacles we face are not just random or cruel twists of fate. They are opportunities for us to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. In fact, many of life's greatest blessings are often found on the other side of obstacles. These challenges force us to lean on God, trust in His strength, and rely on His wisdom. When we allow ourselves to be guided through the difficult times, we are shaped in ways that prepare us for the future that God has in store. God's plan is not just about our individual journey, it's about a larger purpose that is woven into the fabric of the universe. Every obstacle we face has a purpose in God's grand design. It may be difficult to understand why things are happening at times, but we must trust that God is using every experience, every challenge to shape us and prepare us for the next phase of our lives. His plan is not limited by time or space, and He knows exactly what we need when we need it. The obstacles we encounter are not interruptions or mistakes in His plan. They are opportunities for us to grow, develop, and become the person we are meant to be. Another important aspect of God's plan is that it is not defined by our timeline. We often have a specific idea of when and how things should happen. We set goals, create schedules, and plan our futures with the belief that everything should unfold according to our desires. But God's timing is perfect. He knows the exact moment when we are ready for the next step in our journey. Sometimes the obstacles we face are not roadblocks, but simply detours that keep us on the right path. God may have a different timeline in mind, and in those moments of waiting or delay, it's important to remember that His plan is unfolding just as it should. We may not understand why things are happening in the way they are, but we can trust that everything is working together for a purpose. Moreover, God's plan is rooted in His love for us. When we face obstacles, it's easy to wonder if God is punishing us or if He has forgotten about us. But the truth is, God's love is constant, and He works everything together for our good. His plan is not to harm us, but to give us hope and a future. The obstacles we encounter are not signs of abandonment. They are part of a process that refines us and helps us grow into the person God has created us to be. Even in the most difficult times, God is with us, guiding us through the storm and leading us towards something better. His love is the foundation of His plan, and it is that love that will ultimately carry us through the obstacles we face. The obstacles we encounter also serve as opportunities for us to trust God more deeply. Trusting God when everything is going well is one thing, but trusting Him when we are in the midst of a storm takes our faith to a deeper level. When we are faced with challenges, we are given the opportunity to rely on God in a way that we may not have done otherwise. These moments force us to let go of our own control and surrender to His will. And in doing so, we discover that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. The obstacles we face are not meant to break us, but to help us realize our dependence on God and to trust in His ability to carry us through any situation. In addition to personal growth, the obstacles we face are also opportunities for us to help others. When we go through difficult times and come out the other side, we are better equipped to help others who are going through similar struggles. God uses our challenges not only to shape us, but also to equip us to be a source of encouragement and support for others. Our experiences allow us to share our story, to show others that there is hope, and to demonstrate that even in the face of the most difficult obstacles, there is a greater plan at work. By trusting God through our own obstacles, we become a living testament to the power of His plan and His love. Finally, God's plan is greater than any obstacle because it is eternal. The challenges we face on earth are temporary, but the plan that God has for us is eternal. His plan extends beyond this life and into eternity. The obstacles we encounter may feel overwhelming in the moment, but they are a small part of a much larger journey. We can take comfort in knowing that God's plan is not limited to our current circumstances. It encompasses our past, our present, and our future. When we keep our eyes fixed on the eternal perspective, the obstacles of today become much smaller, and we can trust that God's plan is unfolding exactly as it should, with our ultimate good in mind. Trusting God transforms fear into strength. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience as humans. It can paralyze us, hold us back, and prevent us from moving forward in life. Whether it's the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, or the fear of losing control, fear can be overwhelming and seem insurmountable. We often allow fear to dictate our choices, pushing us into a place of inaction or avoidance. But when we choose to trust God in the face of fear, something incredible happens. Our fear begins to lose its grip on us, and in its place, we find strength that we didn't know we had. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty and danger. It's a mechanism built into us for survival, designed to protect us from harm. However, when fear becomes chronic, when it's not rooted in immediate danger, but rather in imagined threats or past experiences, it can begin to control us. We may start to shrink back from challenges, make decisions based on what we fear, or even avoid opportunities because we are scared of the potential risks. This kind of fear can be limiting and restrictive, keeping us from experiencing the fullness of life. But when we trust in God, we allow ourselves to shift our perspective, and fear loses its power over us. Trusting God doesn't mean that fear will magically disappear. It doesn't mean that we will never feel afraid or uncertain again. Rather, it means that despite our fear, we choose to move forward with the confidence that God is with us every step of the way. Trusting God is not about eradicating fear. It's about learning to face it head on and knowing that we are not facing it alone. In fact, when we trust God, we begin to see that fear can actually be transformed into a source of strength. Instead of being paralyzed by fear, we can allow it to propel us toward courage and faith. The first way that trusting God transforms fear into strength is by reminding us of His presence. Fear often stems from a sense of being alone or unsupported. We look at our circumstances and feel overwhelmed as though we have to handle everything by ourselves. But when we trust in God, we acknowledge that we are never alone. God is always with us, guiding us, protecting us, and offering us strength. When we face fear, we can call upon God to help us through it, knowing that He will provide the wisdom and courage we need to move forward. This assurance of God's presence helps to calm our anxious hearts and replace our fear with peace. Trusting God also helps us recognize that we are not the ones ultimately in control. Fear often arises when we feel like we must have everything figured out, that the outcome is entirely dependent on us. When we trust God, we release the need to control every detail of our lives. We acknowledge that there are things beyond our understanding and that we don't need to have all the answers. God's plan is greater than anything we could imagine, and when we trust in His timing and guidance, we can let go of the fear of the unknown. Instead of trying to control the outcome, we can trust that God has a purpose in all things and that His plan is always for our good. This trust in God also brings us a sense of security that overcomes fear. Fear is often rooted in a lack of security or stability. We fear what might happen if things don't go as planned, if we make the wrong decision, or if things fall apart. But when we trust God, we are placing our security in something much greater than ourselves. We know that God is faithful and trustworthy, and that He will always be there to guide us through life's challenges. When our security is rooted in God, our fear of failure, rejection, or loss becomes less significant because we know that we are anchored in His love and provision. This deep sense of security gives us the strength to face our fears with courage, knowing that even if things don't go as we expect, God is still in control. Another way that trusting God transforms fear into strength is by shifting our focus from our limitations to His limitless power. Fear often arises when we focus on our weaknesses and shortcomings. We look at the obstacles in front of us and think, I can't do this, I'm not strong enough, I'm not capable. But when we trust God, we stop looking at our own limitations and start focusing on His power. God is not limited by our weaknesses or fears. He is all-powerful, all-knowing, and ever-present. When we remember that God is bigger than our fears and that He is the one who equips us to face challenges, our fear begins to shrink in comparison to His strength. Trusting in God means recognizing that through Him we can do all things. His strength becomes our strength, and this empowers us to overcome fear. Moreover, trusting God transforms fear into strength by allowing us to shift our perspective on the challenges we face. Fear often clouds our judgment and makes the challenges ahead seem insurmountable. We focus on the size of the problem and it becomes all-consuming, but when we trust God, we are reminded that with Him, no challenge is too great. We may still face difficult situations, but we know that God is with us and He has already equipped us with the tools we need to overcome. Trusting God allows us to see obstacles as opportunities for growth, learning, and the demonstration of God's power in our lives. Instead of fearing the challenges, we begin to embrace them as stepping stones to a stronger, more resilient faith. Trusting God also gives us the strength to persevere in the face of fear. Fear can cause us to want to retreat, to give up, or to avoid taking risks, but when we trust in God, we gain the perseverance to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear or difficult. Trusting God means believing that He has a purpose in every circumstance and that He will see us through to the other side. This confidence in God's faithfulness fuels our determination and resilience, allowing us to press on despite our fears. With God by our side, we are able to face challenges head-on, knowing that He will provide the strength we need to keep going. Finally, trusting God transforms fear into strength by giving us the freedom to live with boldness and courage. When we allow fear to control us, we are often held back from pursuing our dreams, taking risks, and stepping out in faith. But when we trust God, we are free to move forward with courage, knowing that He is guiding us every step of the way. Trusting God allows us to take risks and embrace the unknown, knowing that no matter what happens, God's plan is always for our good. This freedom gives us the strength to live boldly, to follow our passions, and to pursue the life that God has called us to live. Fear no longer holds us back, because we know that we are equipped with the strength that comes from trusting in God. In every aspect of our lives, trusting God transforms fear into strength. When we choose to trust God, we are not denying our fear, but we are allowing Him to replace it with peace, courage, and resilience. Trusting God does not mean that we won't experience fear, but it does mean that fear will no longer control us. Instead, we can move forward with confidence, knowing that God is with us, guiding us and empowering us to face whatever challenges come our way. In conclusion, trusting God is a transformative act that changes the way we approach life's obstacles, challenges, and fears. It doesn't promise that we will never face difficulty or that we won't feel afraid, but it assures us that we are never alone in our struggles. When we choose to trust in God, we are shifting our focus from our own limitations to His limitless power, from our fears to His faithfulness. By surrendering control and relying on His guidance, we find strength, courage, and peace that surpasses understanding. God's plan for us is greater than any obstacle we face, and His timing is perfect. As we trust Him, we are empowered to face the unknown, to embrace challenges with hope, and to rise above our fears with the confidence that we are held in His love and care. Trusting God doesn't just change our circumstances, it transforms us, enabling us to become the people He has called us to be, living boldly and courageously in His divine purpose.